Okay, we got the summary from Mike Closer of what went on since we last did a show that wasn't Backlash Rewind, which was 4 days ago. So let's do what we're getting in the habit of doing, hopefully on Mondays on a regular thing. We're going to talk to Eliyokim Cohen of Jews News and the Fuxstein show, and we're going to talk to him, get the view from the center of the universe, a.k.a. Jerusalem. What's up, Eliyokim?
What up? What up, Taxin?
Yeah. See, even in Jerusalem, they make sounds on their computers in the background there, so we have that.
Yeah, I'm trying to charge my phone so I don't log out again this time.
It's all right. It's all right. Where do we start? Syria, Radiohead, the freaking UN, Sweden, like you talked about in that great video of yours that you had on Twitter yesterday on the Fuxstein show. India, which you didn't talk about in yesterday's video. Your call, man. This is all you.
Dude, there's so much. I mean, the last 2 days have just been like liberal insanity overload on my show, on my page, talking with my parents. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we just marvel at the lunacy going on in the world. I think the most ridiculous thing is what happened in Hamburg. I mean, they literally destroyed a city, and
right.
Germany just let it happen. I mean,
my token response is I have 6 million reasons not to care what happens to Germany, but I care. I mean, these are not 90-year-olds. Yeah, it's pathetic. It's the same mentality that allows them to let their country be invaded and have no future as Germany. What's wrong with these people?
I mean, there's two things that I found ridiculous about it. One, at the airport, Israel coming into your country. I mean, they literally, I think I mentioned that story that one time that there was a guy, Orthodox guy, Mexican. He gets stopped at the airport. No, this guy's got tzitzit and a kippah, totally innocuous looking. And they stopped him because his name was one of Carlos the Jackal's old aliases from like 40 years ago.
Right.
So Israel knows, Germany knows. I mean, these are the American Antifa people flew in. These are some of the radical left-wingers in like the UK and in the Nordic countries. I mean, these people all register on a passport thing, came into the country and literally destroyed Hamburg. I mean, the pictures were, they destroyed a Porsche dealership. There were literally hundreds of Porsches burned out, windows broken.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone thinks that the right wing is the gun nuts and it's so violent, but the left has become insane. I mean,
I don't think
dangerous.
people even really think that, but okay.
No, I
think people know who the real problem is.
No, but I'm saying the general, like if you would look in the media, the general consensus is they're always trying to make the radical right-wing Christian, fanatic that's a gun enthusiast hiding up in his cabin like it's Timothy McVeigh or whatever. The left is literally insane. I mean, you saw it in Ferguson. You see that every G20 rally. I think that should be the biggest story in the world. But, I mean, CNN talked about them like they were just these social protesters flying in for justice. I mean, look, that's troubling, man. That literally an entire city. And what I tried to focus on today were the property owners and the business owners that literally don't have jobs anymar because of leftists.
Germany, of all things. It reminds me of Weimar Germany, except I don't think they will have the counter revolution that they had after Weimar and the anarchy there. Not that they did those things in Weimar. There was just a lot of fighting in the streets.
And I love that you know that, actually. I'm a huge World War II buff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how much street violence there was to other people's property. I mean, this is just insane anarchy. It's just insane.
Look,
how did Germany let this happen?
I encourage the people listening now to Google Hamburg Porsche dealership. This is just one of like thousands of places they destroyed. But Porsches, I mean, I've always wanted a Porsche. I mean, even though it's a German car, I've always wanted a 911 Carrera. And to see like 100 Porsches just totally destroyed was mind-boggling. And the problem is the police just sit there and let it happen. I mean, it was the same thing in Ferguson. One thing I love about the Philippines president is he just shoots unruly people. I mean, they're basically cracking down on drugs. He's shooting drug dealers.
He eats Muslims' liver, or he threatens to. I watched your show.
Yeah, I mean,
you talked about how he's your favorite world leader.
One of my favorite. Yeah, he's my favorite world leader by far. But he
Bibi didn't make your top
realizes,
3.
yeah, if you can't control X amount of the population, they don't deserve to be in the population. I mean, this is really insane. I really don't think anyone listening really even knows what went on in Hamburg, but I encourage you to see it. It's really troubling because this could be your city. And I mean, it has been. It was Baltimore. It was Ferguson. LA's had the riots. I mean,
yep.
Whatever. It's just.
Well, I mean, those were. Yeah, and it was outside people. LA, at least, was mostly people from LA, and that was 23 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
I hope they try to do it someplace like Egypt. And we don't give enough credit. We are tough on Arabs and Muslims here, but Sisi's really done a good job of cracking down on people.
Dude, Sisi is ISIS backwards. He literally is like the reverse ISIS. He's awesome.
We don't give him enough credit.
I was at the pool today, and this girl basically super right wing, loves dropping the F-bomb like every other sentence, but she basically said, Muslims need a dictator to keep them in line. I mean, you saw it with Saddam. Right before they killed Saddam Hussein, he was interviewed by the CIA, and he said, you will see in 5 to 10 years how much you needed me. And
right.
I mean, you see that in Iraq, you see it in Syria. I mean, I didn't mean to bring up a new topic, but I just thought that was the most mind-blowing thing in the world, this Hamburg riots over the weekend. And it's getting such little press because everyone's, talking about Melania's outfit or, Trump meeting Putin. But they didn't realize that a city doesn't exist anymore because of leftists.
Well, good. We'll get more clicks. When we make a YouTube video out of this one, we'll get more clicks if it's being undercovered.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't blame CNN because they're getting lower ratings than Yogi Bear right now, apparently.
Isn't that amazing? Dude, and Full House.
Yogi Bear's pretty good. I'm not too into Full House, but I do like Yogi Bear. I mean, just being.
It's I think Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, the Gateway pundit. They've been just bashing CNN. I mean, they've had probably the worst 2 weeks in media history. I mean,
it really is amazing.
And it's not just slamming them.
It's not just one thing either. It's one after another.
Yeah,
exactly.
And what I'll give them credit for is they just keep doubling down. I mean, no matter how many times their stockholders just had a meeting and basically was blasting whatever his name is. I can't remember Bezos or whatever the CEO is, saying like, do you not see that your ratings are in the toilet? Maybe diversify
Bezos is
your
Amazon Washington
content.
Post. Yeah, it's Zucker you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's
well,
Trump is just dominating.
Maybe they can turn it around. The best thing that can happen to CNN is there is a lot of flight delays in O'Hare, and people have to sit in the airport waiting to board their plane for longer. But other than that, I can't see anything good happening.
Speaking of that, I led off my show today with there was a 6-year-old kid, part of a stick-up, walking around with a silver handgun in Chicago, part of the 100 shootings on July 4th weekend. I mean, everything, Democrats have the opposite Midas touch. Everything they touch turns to excrement. It's actually pretty wild to see.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I don't like talking about Democrats for Chicago, I think it's disingenuous to pretend there's not a racial angle with that stuff, because the reality is lots of Democrats in Burlington, lots of Democrats in
Right.
In what's the other one I'm thinking of? Boulder, in Portland, Oregon. Well, Portland, Oregon's a little weird. That's a little different. But they're not having the murder rate. It's not a pure Democratic versus Republican thing, as John Derbyshire has pointed out pretty well. So, it's not just, yes, but that's not the main factor there. Chicago, amazing. And Barack Obama, it's in his walking distance of his alleged home in Chicago.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, look, every city that they, that they run, basically the black community is in shambles. I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, I was quite honest with that on my show today, and I wish more people would have the courage to talk about it.
And by the way, I want to point out one thing about your show. You're getting huge numbers, growing numbers on Facebook Live. I see. Obviously, you need to monetize that, but not so much on Twitter, but on Facebook Live, your numbers are really soaring. Congrats. It's a great show.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, yesterday we had 13,000 viewers, just in one day. I mean, the good thing is the videos stay up, but Yeah, I mean, look, there's X amount of people out there doing really good right-wing stuff, and people are so disenchanted with the mainstream media that I think shows like ours, can only grow. God willing.
Well, they don't want people to beat around the bush. They don't want to have to sit through Shepard Smith for a little while to get to the point. That's the problem with Fox News. They know what they're getting when it's with you. Hopefully they do with me. But enough with the, pussyfooting around like political correctness. And your show advertises against political correctness, and you don't mince words when there is an issue. That's what people want to hear, and that's to the detriment of Fox News as well. MSNBC is a different category. They're basically cannibalizing isn't the word, but they're picking up so much of CNN's audience, which is why they're doing well. But why would you want to watch through that when you know what you're getting with the ideology that's not going to BS? That's my view, and that's why you're doing well. Mike Cernovich, Paul Joseph Watson, etc.
Yeah, Paul Joseph Watson's phenomenal. I mean, all these people are phenomenal. I mean, every single person that I've been following in the right-wing world that I've been, doing articles about or just, watching their shows, they're booming now. I mean, 3 years ago, Ben Shapiro was, he was well known, but now he's Milo. I mean, Hannity's.
I think Milo's jumped the shark, by the way. I think Milo's rubbing people the wrong way at this point. And if it becomes about him and he's putting like a little anti-Semitic, Ben Shapiro in baseball. First of all, he was ripping off. Wait, remind people what he did, or I can do it if you want. He had a party which was very flamboyant. Okay, that's his shtick. Where he had Ben Shapiro as midgets. By the way, Ben Shapiro is 5'9". That's taller than than the guy who's leading major leagues in hitting, Jose Altuve, by 5 inches. He's not a midget, so he had midgets dressed up as Ben Shapiro. 5'9" is average height. And wearing taluses or something, giving things around. Now, I had a reaction.
That's what Milo did?
I think so. That's what I'm told. I have not seen it.
Wow. At
his book launch party. Yeah, and he's like, I'm Jewish. My mother's mother is Jewish, but, Catholicism was great because I learned how to give oral sex from a priest back there. So, enough.
Yeah, first of all, I don't... That's the problem with, he's still gay. It's still...
It's a sodomite thing, but...
aspect of...
Well, that's his deal, and I'm not going to applaud it, but what really annoys me is the whole heterosexual acting like, it's so cool that he's gay. No, that's not the way it works. What he does, to a certain extent, it's his business. He'll let God judge him, whatever, but everyone thinking it's so cool, and that's a lot of conservatives. I'm not going to name names, but that's a problem, and also he ripped that off from Freddie Mercury, having midgets distributing cocaine in loincloths. And the difference is 30 years after his death or so, people still love Another One Bites the Dust. We Will Rock You,
exactly.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
He's famous not because of his antics, because he's gay, but because he was a damn good singer. To the point, you shouldn't even try to do Queen songs for karaoke. As opposed to Milo. If I ask people point blank, well, what's your favorite thing that Milo wrote in the last 6 months? Well, no, but it's just his shit. No, you got to be famous for what you do. I'm sorry. And I think he's jumped the shark a little bit. Sorry, I got on a rant there.
Well, that's why I love coming on the show. We go anywhere from Israel to Hamburg to Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, but the point is, I have 5 things that I actually did want to talk to you about, and we haven't gotten to any of them yet, and we don't have that much time. Let me just, let's see what we can do and be a little bit concise, because I do have another guest coming on after you and Mike. So we got about 7 minutes left, I think, maybe a little more. Syria, the truth, how that affects Israel. Radiohead, that's a pretty quick one, but we got to talk about it. Sweden, what you were saying on the What the Fuxstein show yesterday. And India, because India is a big deal, the cooperation they're having with Israel. And then we'll get to the UN. Make sure to leave 2 minutes for the freaking UN at the end.
Right.
And you can curse on this show, so if you want to be a little less polite than I just was.
Oh, I don't curse. I'm trying to cut back on my,
well,
growing
it's the UN, so
swear words are
but
what was
it's
the
the
first
UN.
one?
Syria, the truth that was brokered by Putin and President Trump.
If Obama had brokered this truce at the G20, leftists would have said he's the greatest statesman ever, that it's so nice that he's reaching over the aisle with Putin. Why should the two superpowers be fighting? When Trump does it, it's like he committed a crime. Why would you want the two biggest countries that have the most nuclear weapons to be fighting. Wouldn't the world be safer if they're not? So what I talked about is just intellectual dishonesty I detest. It's the most revolting thing on earth. Why Trump isn't getting credit for literally 10 minutes after meeting with Putin, there's a ceasefire in Syria. And how does it affect Israel? Well, there's been rockets flying into Israel from Syria almost every day for the past month. About every other day there's spillover. So some of these rockets could hit Jews living in the Golan Heights. So if there's a ceasefire in Syria, rockets are not coming over. That's a win-win for everybody. People aren't getting slaughtered. That's a win-win for everybody. Why the left even views this as something that's, that's not good is why no one takes them seriously and why they're getting their asses kicked in every single election. I mean, give Trump credit. He met Putin. They ironed it out. You might hate him. You can, bash him for everything else, but he got the job done. And Putin respects him, unlike Obama, who he basically made his bitch for the past 8 years. So that's Syria. What was that?
Radiohead.
So Radiohead is probably, actually, I think it was Rolling Stone about 10 years ago rated OK Computer, their first album, I believe, the best album of all time. And I think that Sgt. Pepper was number 2. Radiohead is probably the biggest band in the world other than, the Rolling Stones.
And the world. They're huge internationally.
They're huge. Yeah, I mean, they're literally huge. So they're coming to Israel. And like every other group that comes to Israel for about 2 to 3 months, leftists and Muslims just bitch and complain, follow them around, slander them on Twitter. So he's at a Glasgow concert, and people are waving, the quote-unquote Palestinian flag, which is basically the Jordanian flag minus one little star or whatever. I mean, they can't even they're not even clever enough to make up a new flag. I mean,
Jordan is Palestine to some extent.
Yeah, exactly. So he basically said on stage, some effing people, like he was disgusted. He was shaking his head, and then he gave them the finger. I mean,
that's pretty. What more can you ask for?
Because he was so pissed off that these people are chanting at. He's there to play music.
Yep.
He's not there to get embroiled in this leftist crap. They just, and thankfully he's one of the few, music guys that just rises above all this.
Probably a lot more than that. Aerosmith. Aerosmith was like, what the hell, you're not going to tell us what to do.
But a lot of people come here and they do a concert here and then they do a concert in Ramallah. He's just coming here and he's saying, I play music for everybody. Deal with it. And they're still not dealing with it. And he basically just gave them the finger at his show and swore at them. I mean, that's anti-BDS for you. That's great stuff right there.
You have a great Facebook page, and I reposted something you wrote on there, or maybe it was something someone else wrote. I don't remember if it was you who wrote that. And someone said, yeah, it's annoying what these Palestinians are doing in the audience. I was like, wait. Don't put this one on the Arabs. I'm sure it's mostly overwhelmingly white liberals doing this at the concert. Would be my guess.
Well, I mean, a lot of the Palestinian flags were being waved by Muslims.
Oh, they were at the concert.
Look, the whole movement is not the whole BDS movement was founded by white left-wing idiots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a fact. Exactly what you're saying. That's a fact. And a lot of them were Jews. I mean, that's an even more disturbing fact. But to see this guy basically just not even want to get in. Look, some people just don't want to be a part of this. Some people just want to live life. They want to come to Israel, do a concert. Maybe they're filming a movie or just visiting somebody. They don't want to be a part of this. And to hear someone just basically give them the finger, figuratively and literally was fantastic in my opinion.
Let's continue from where you were on your show yesterday. Give a little background about Sweden and just how sad that country is. By the way, I did do 2 Ace of Base songs in a row. Yesterday I got a chance to do a double at karaoke, and it was pretty well. So, you have to give some credit to the country of Sweden. They have come up with a lot of good pop songs. But what a sad situation in this country, all joking aside. And just basically give a summary of what you said on your show.
Right, so there was just a music festival. There were 11 rapes. A few of them were actual rapes, and then there were 11 total cases of sexual misconduct, whatever you want to call it. All 11 of them or Muslim refugees. So Sweden has a brilliant idea. Instead of banning the Muslim refugees from concerts or just not letting them in, period, they're now banning men from festivals.
Good.
You can't make this stuff up. Now, like, Swedish men, they're usually typically nice people. Like, I always see them walking the streets of Jerusalem. They're always asking for directions with, like, that interesting accent.
Mm-hmm.
The Nordic countries, like, all right, they're anti-Semitic, but, like, they don't harm a fly. So now men are being banned from these concerts, which they love, because Muslims can't stop raping white Swedish women. And nobody thinks that's like a weird punishment.
In all seriousness, if I were a Swedish teenage girl, they're being raped when they're 13, or, however, maybe not fully raped, but whatever. Like, what would I be thinking? Like, I don't want to be digitally penetrated when I'm at school by some Muhammad. I'm thinking, what am I doing for my future? I've said in the back of my mind, the thing for Europeans, Western Europeans at least, to be doing is thinking, how can I help Israel? Pay back, I want to go to a country, maybe a sort of European country, where there's a future, where they take their culture seriously. The hell with this trash. I want a future. Honestly, I'd be thinking, what can I do to volunteer for Israel? I'd like to think that's what I'd be thinking, or maybe figure out something with Poland or Hungary or the Czech Republic at least.
My mom works at this, like a tchotchke type store in Florida. And this Swedish woman came in, and my mom, just from watching my show and like reading, the news or whatever, is pretty hip on the state of affairs. So she said to the woman, like, "Oh, what's going on with your country?" And the woman shook her head and she said, "I literally, like, we're basically moving to Florida, so we're just coming to sort of check out the area." She said, "We don't have a country anymore."
It's true.
She said we literally were the most cultured and. Sweden's very historic and cultured, and in the time of Peter the Great in Russia, Sweden had the most powerful army. They used to be a powerhouse.
Well, it shows what happens when things get too good. It's right out of the
Torah.
But
it's all self. It's not like they got invaded by an army. This was just opening the door. It's like sheep opening the door for wolves. Is basically the only comparison that's.
Look, they got too soft. Who knows if Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary will have this desire for survival in a generation, or how much of their current toughness is just because they had to suffer a lot under the Iron Curtain. Who knows if it's really something inherent to those people or a fact of history. And, Sweden I can't even joke about. When things happen in Germany, I say, there's 6 million reasons I don't give a crap what happens there, even though I do. Sweden was neutral. Raoul Wallenberg was from Sweden. I don't have the same feelings I do toward. They didn't give away their Jews. The Jews in Sweden stayed living there. It was a neutral country.
Well, they're making up for it in modern times. They're definitely the most anti-Semitic European country. They're foreign.
Yeah, but is it the people who are in power via the EU? The average Sweden really hates Jews. I don't know. They don't even know Jews over there, except for in Stockholm, probably.
Yeah, I honestly lay in bed every night and I just review some of the things that I've just either talked about or just read during the day, and I do nothing but laugh now, because it's like you said, if people don't want to help themselves, I don't even care anymore. I just talk about it just for shoots and Googles, but I don't care anymore. I don't care.
You have the mentality of someone who moved to Israel from America, from a comfortable background in America. You can. I'm not sure I can to the same extent. Okay, we're running out of time, so I want to just get some words from you about India. They had a major meeting over there in Israel, and then if we can go from that briefly to the UN, which is now a couple days old anyway.
Sure, yeah. So the Indian Prime Minister came. It was unbelievable. First of all, he didn't even go to Ramallah, which everybody goes to, so that was really important. He came to Israel, and they talked. Multi-billion-dollar defense deal we just signed with them. We're giving them missiles and drones and whatever. Look, we have a common enemy. The only people on earth that deal with Islamic terror on a day-to-day basis from a non-Muslim country is Israel and India. India's been dealing with Pakistani terror for
southern Philippines too, to some extent.
Yeah, true, yeah. But It's insane.
Nigeria.
So,
Sorry, you can take back that statement. Nigeria. I can keep going, but go on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
But I'm saying these are two separate countries fighting.
Yes.
India-Pakistan is basically Israel versus the Middle East. It's the Asian version of that. So it's so it was an unbelievable meeting, and he ended up meeting the Jewish boy whose parents were murdered in the Mumbai attack, and he just showed a genuine appreciation for Israel, marveled at our technological know-how, and really was like enthusiastic about building bridges. And this was a monumental thing for Israel because India historically, for some reason, even with their animus with Pakistan, has always voted basically with the Soviet, the old Soviet bloc. And we basically didn't even have relations with them for years. And then to have this new relationship, he's basically the Stephen Harper of India.
That's great. Maybe they'll even vote in the UN, not against us. So then you contrast
that. Yeah, I mean, you contrast that with the UN, the UNESCO vote, which, I mean, I talked about yesterday on my show that the Cave of the Patriarchs was the first real estate purchase in world history that was recorded. I mean, it's literally recorded in the Torah. And the New Testament is based on the Torah. The Quran is based on the Torah. Muslims don't say that the Torah is not true. They just say that God, traded us in for the Christians and then the Muslims. But they claim that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are Muslim prophets. So I tried to do the analogy that imagine 500 years from now, Judaism is 1,900 years older than Islam. So Islam's been around for 1,400 years. So imagine 500 years from now, a new religion comes, goes to Saudi Arabia, and basically says Mecca is, whatever this new religion is, holy site. And UNESCO says, yes, you're right, it's this new religion. I mean, they literally just stole the Cave of the Patriarchs. And what people don't understand is it doesn't matter. Like, it's not one thing changed after this vote. It's just countries showing their true colors. It's Muslims showing that they have no interest in peace. They literally are stealing Jewish culture just to steal it.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I don't think people are understanding about it.
Well, they put mosques over churches and synagogues and temples for a reason, to show our God is greater than yours, which is what Allahu Akbar means.
Yeah, but what bothers me that, I don't care about the rest of them. I'm from America. My family's still in America. They wanted to build a mosque at 9/11. A mosque, when they build it, and you see that big tower that comes out of the mosque with the green light on top, that means that area has been conquered. That tower, that spire, that means that it's been conquered. That's the actual definition of what that tower means in Islam. Why do they want a mosque at 9/11? To show that they conquered that area. They basically built over Constantinople. Constantinople was the most beautiful city in the world at the time, and they just built Istanbul right over it. They just destroy everything they touch. They steal everything they touch. And what bothers me is that so many more Jews are in outrage. I mean, this is literally the biggest kick in the balls the UN had ever given to us.
Yep. Well, the UN is a joke. I just hope that one day President Trump pulls us out and we can do with the UN what Michael Savage has been advocating for a long time, to turn it into a homeless shelter for veterans, though I respect the other opinion that it can be a homeless shelter, not necessarily for veterans, whoever needs it, But that's the only debate with the UN, whether to turn the building into a homeless shelter just for veterans.
I totally agree. And, dude, they're in Israel. Homeless. You see UN cars driving around everywhere. So my trademark, whenever I walk past the UN car, I just spit on the window, no matter if people are in there or not. That's my FU. I mean, I can't puncture their tires. I don't want to get arrested. But I literally have spit on probably 10,000 cars in the last. Well done. And if I see one in the corner, if I see one in the distance, I really try to build up a good one. And it's even better when there's, because they're all Europeans. They're all Europeans in the car, and I love spitting on their window.
Who should be defending their own country. Probably not Poles, Czechs, or Hungarians, but probably people who should be worrying about their own countries. You don't have enough problems over there. You're coming over here to harass us. Get back to Sweden and protect some 14-year-old girls from being fingered in the hallway at school. All right. On that note, congratulations on following through your commitment to not using profanity in general, and not doing it when we were talking about the UN. You seem to have gone through, unless you blow it in the last 30 seconds. But otherwise, great having you on. And why don't you give people information about how to follow you?
Yeah, you can go to facebook.com/Jews News. There's all the links to our website. We do like 80 articles a day, all basically right-wing. Just the nonsense that we basically just talked about is what my entire page is all day. And then I have the...
But it has visuals. Visuals on the What the Fuxstein show.
Yeah, the What the Fuxstein show. I like turning out non-colored pictures. I like getting really feisty. And, yeah, I mean, everyone's got their own, you're chill and laid back, and you like throwing in zingers. I'm more animated, but we're like a pincer movement. We just keep doing what we're doing, and we're gonna, keep capturing. It's basically the undecided people that won Trump the election, and those are the people I think that are really flocking to shows like this because they're intellectually honest.
Yep, and especially true in the Jewish world where you have so many buttoned up, like too good, big for their own good organizations who try to be all things to all people. AIPAC and so many others like that are a joke to Jewish organizations, and it's a good response to that. And you have a great logo, but I'm not going to tell people about that because they have to go see it for themselves by watching the What the Fuxstein show on Eliyokim Cohen's page on Facebook. And with that in mind, great having you on as always.